Good morning. My name is Jim Zemlin. I'm the Executive Director of the Linux Foundation, and I'm very happy to be with all of you today at the inaugural Open Mainframe Summit. These are tough times, and albeit this is a virtual event, I'm excited to be a part of it. You know, the Open Mainframe project has been excited since the beginning. We've seen open source breathe life into the mainframe in a way that we've seen that happen in other industries. At the Linux Foundation, we worked with the automotive sector, as an example, to create a new software-driven automotive cockpit experience. We've worked with the film industry and filmmakers to create exciting open source projects around visual effects. And the Open Mainframe project, in addition, is an exciting new way to bring a new ecosystem of developers into the incredibly important mainframe space. Mainframe computing is special in so many ways. It runs so many of the world's most important computing systems, but for me, mainframes hold a special personal connection. You see, I grew up with mainframe computers as a part of my childhood and early adult life. My father was a programmer and worked on mainframes, and my grandfather was also an engineer and worked on mainframes as well. My father worked at Control Data for the bulk of his career and was a programmer on those very mainframe computers. My grandfather, George Hansen, also worked on some of the earliest computers in the US military during World War II, but also worked at Control Data before moving on to become a founder of Cray Research with Seymour Cray. I remember fondly going into my father's work or visiting my grandfather and seeing the amazing computers and watching the wonderful work that my father and grandfather were doing in this area. In fact, being a part of that early part of computing is one of the things that really motivated me to work at the Linux Foundation. You know, I used to talk to my father and grandfather about Linux and all of the interesting work going on there, and their responses would always be the same. You know, Jim, everything you think is cool in Linux or bleeding edge is really stuff that we did on the mainframe 2-3 decades ago. And we always used to laugh about how we've kind of come back to the future in terms of the forms of computing and the pioneering work that happened on the mainframe in the very early days. So I'm really happy to be a part of this event. You know, during this time, the Linux Foundation has been working quietly with our open source communities, including the Open Mainframe project, to help meet the challenge of today's current pandemic. Part of this involved some quiet leadership to make sure that our organization could better serve the communities that we work with, such as the Open Mainframe project. We've restructured our business to help facilitate virtual events like this one. We expanded our mentoring programs in order to provide jobs opportunities for people who've been displaced. We've expanded our training scholarships to help people learn new skills and give them new opportunities during this uncertain time. Most importantly, we've also launched some new initiatives that have direct impact on the current pandemic. We launched over the summer our Linux Foundation Public Health Initiative. This is directly impacting contact tracing around the world, with applications such as COVID Shield and others that are being used in Canada and Ireland to help people identify and receive exposure notifications. We've started a racially charged language removal effort across all of our projects. We've been providing clear statements on the free and open nature of open source in the midst of deepening trade conflict around the world. But I want to definitely give a hats off to this community for working with IBM and the Linux Foundation to help provide COBOL training for developers in the US. You know, many of the US's unemployment systems were written in COBOL, and haven't been updated for a very long time and struggled to meet with the demand and need to provide relief to millions of people. And this community truly stepped up to help train folks to alter those systems so they could both handle the load and change to the new requirements that are being issued during this pandemic. It's been very gratifying to see this work, and I'm very happy to see that this community has stepped up to meet all of those challenges. You know, to build a community like the Open Mainframe community, you need to do so many things. And one of the things that we've been focused on at the Linux Foundation is supporting all of the different ways which a community grows over time. At the Foundation, we host over 360 industry-defining projects like the Open Mainframe projects, 250,000 developers from over 18,000 companies participate in these projects. Collectively, we see an average of 2 million lines of code added, 1.5 million lines of code deleted, and 3.6 million lines of code modified daily across all Linux Foundation projects. We kick off 215 million builds a year, process 241,000 Jira tickets and GitHub issues. We manage 110,000 email groups, host 27,000 virtual meetings. We have 180,000 people in our Slack and chat channels, and we hold over 150 events annually with over 40,000 attendees. We manage 29,000 contribution agreements and over 700 trademark registrations. We've enrolled 1.5 million people in our free training courses and sign up 1,000 people a day to pursue new training and certification through our online learning. We also have issued over 1 billion TLS certificates through our Let's Encrypt project and are the world's largest certificate authority as a result. From all of this work, we've built sustainable ecosystems like the Open Mainframe project and many others, ranging from Kubernetes to Linux to Node.js and many, many more. And all of this work is facilitated by only a couple hundred of the best employees in the business who work here at the Linux Foundation. But perhaps the Open Mainframe project, being one of the earliest communities out there, starting with Share, which was one of the first IT user groups out there. I'm proud to say, I believe I went to a Share meetup as a child, accompanying my dad, who probably didn't have childcare for us at the time. And lucky for me, because that was one of my first introductions to computing, and subsequently through our home personal computer, became enraptured with what computing can bring. And the Open Mainframe project is now carrying on that tradition. And no matter where you are in the world as a developer, whether it's a seasoned professional, a student, or hobbyist, now through our open community in the Open Mainframe project, people can connect to their passion for mainframe technology or pursue new opportunities in mainframe computing, the computing platform that runs so many critical systems out there. The Open Mainframe project launched at the Linux Foundation in 2015 with one project, and that's now grown to 12 with more on the way later this year. Whether it's CBT tape or the COBOL efforts, this effort continues to grow and demonstrates the important role mainframe computing has in modern computing. The momentum of the Open Mainframe project has been unmatchable in terms of its pace relative to many of our other projects. It's really a cornerstone of the Linux Foundation ecosystem, and this inaugural event is the staying power of the passion of this community and the importance that it plays. You know, so many times, year over year, people have heard the word mainframe and thought, oh, are those still around? Do they still exist? But my prediction is that mainframe computing will exist for another 20 years. That mainframe computing provides the resiliency and scalability that's so important in modern computing, And with open source and the Open Mainframe project, we can openly and freely bring a whole new generation of developers into this ecosystem. I really look forward to virtually seeing all of you, and hopefully soon enough physically seeing all of you at next year's Open Mainframe event, which we hope to hold in person when it's safe. But I want to wish all of you the best for this year's Open Mainframe Project Virtual Assembly, and look forward to seeing you for many, many years to come. Thank you.